The story of Jonah and the whale. At the time, another prophet named Jonah was given the word of God, word of the Lord to the Israelites. To Jonah, the Lord spoke and said, "Go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it, for its wickedness rise up before me." But Jonah did not wish to preach to the people of Nineveh, for they were enemies of the land, the land of Israel. He wished the Nineveh to die in their sins, and not to turn to God and live. So Jonah tried to go away from the city where God sent him, and went down to Joppa, and took the ship to Tarshish. But the Lord saw Jonah on the ship. The Lord sent a great storm upon the sea, so the ship seemed as though it would go to pieces. The sailors threw overboard everything on the ship, and when they could do no more, every man prayed to their God to save the ship and themselves. Jonah was not lying fast asleep, and the ship captain came to him and said, What do you mean? What do you mean by sleeping in such a time as this? Awaken, rise, and call upon your God. Perhaps He will hear you and save our lives." But the storm continued to rage around the ship, and they said, There's some man on this ship who has brought upon us this trouble. Let us cast lots and find who it is. When they cast lots and lots fell on Jonah, they said to him all at once, "Tell us, who are you? From what country do you come? What is your business? To what people do you belong? Why have you brought all this trouble upon us?" Then Jonah told them in the whole story how he came from the land of Israel, and that he had fled away from the presence of the Lord. And they said to him, "What shall we do with you? And the storm may cease." Then said Jonah, Take me up, throw me into the seas, and the storm will cease, and the waters will be calm. For I know that forsake this great tempest is upon you. But the men were not willing to throw Jonah into the sea. They rowed hard to bring the ship to the land, but they couldn't. Then they cried unto the Lord and said, We pray thee, O Lord, we pray thee, let us not die for this man's life. For though, O Lord, hasn't done as it pleased thee. At last, when they could do nothing else to save themselves, they threw Jonah into the sea. At once the storm ceased, and the waves become still. Then the men on the ship feared the Lord greatly. They offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made promises to serve him. And the Lord caused a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was alive within the fish for 3 weeks and 3 nights. In the fish, Jonah cried to the Lord. The Lord caused the great fish to throw up and Jonah upon the dry land. Notice all through this story that although Jonah was God's servant, he was always thinking about himself. God protected Jonah and saved him, not because he was a good man, but because he wanted to teach him a great lesson. By this time, Jonah had learned that some men who worship idols were kind in their hearts and were dear in the Lord. This was the lesson God meant Jonah to learn. Now the call of the Lord came to Jonah the second time. "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it what I command you." So Jonah went to the city of Nineveh, and as he entered into it, he called to the people, within 40 days shall Nineveh be destroyed. And he walked through the city all day and cried out to these, "Within 40 days shall Nineveh be destroyed." And the people of Nineveh believed the word of the Lord has spoken to Jonah. They turned away from their sins, fasted, and sought the Lord, from the greatest of them even the least. The king of Nineveh arose from his throne and laid aside his royal robes and covered himself with sackcloth and sat in ashes as a sign of his sorrow. And the king sent out a command of his people that they shall fast and seek the Lord and turn from sin. And God saw the people of Nineveh were sorry for their wickedness and forgive them and did not destroy their city. But this made Jonah very angry. He did not wish to have Nineveh spared, because it was the enemy of his land. And also he feared that men would call him a false prophet when his word did not come to pass. And Jonah said to the Lord, "O Lord, I was sure that it was this, that don't would it spare the city, and for the reason I tried to flee away. For I know that the Lord was gracious God, full of pity, slow to anger, rich in mercy. Now, O Lord, take me away from my life, for it's better for me to die than live." And Jonah went out to the city and built a little hut on the east side of it. He sat underneath his roof to see whether God kept the word kept the word that he had spoken. Then the Lord caused a plant with thick leaves to grow. The shade Jonah had from the sun. Jonah was glad and sat underneath the shadow. But a worm destroyed the plant. The next day a hot wind blew and Jonah suffered from the heat. And again Jonah wished that he might die. And the Lord said to Jonah, you were sorry to see the plant die, though you died not to make it grow. And though it came up in the night and died in the night. And should not I have pity on Nineveh? But the great city are more than 100,000 little children. Also many cattle are helpless and know nothing. And Jonah learned that men and women and little children are precious in the sight of the Lord, even though they not know God. See, most of us in life, man, we don't listen. Most of us in life, we're Jonahs. See, God. Most of us in life, we're Jonahs. We don't listen. God told us to leave that certain situation. We don't listen. God, he tells us to leave them certain people. We don't listen. In life, I believe we're Jonah. I'm changing my clothes. In life, we're Jonahs. We don't listen. See, but I lost my train of thought, guys. And most of us in life, we're Jonahs. See, we don't listen. God told us to leave that bad atmosphere. We don't listen. God told us to leave those friends, leave those people, those bad influence. We don't listen. God told us to get out of that bad environment. We don't listen. But the funny thing about us people is when tragedy hits, when hard time happens, we cry up to God and say, Father God, why did you allow this to happen to me? Why did you allow this certain situation to happen to me? What did I do wrong? But God told us to leave. That's why I love this story of Jonah and the whale, because most of us were Jonahs. And what second thing I like about this story is in life, in this life, we all got a purpose. God has a destiny in life. So it doesn't matter in life how fast we run. In life, it doesn't matter where we hide. We will always come to our destiny. We will always come back to our destiny. Like in the story, Jonah and the whale. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh and preach about God to the people. But Jonah didn't. Jonah hopped on a boat, went to a city, and tried to run from God. But what happened? A big storm, it says in the story, a big storm came, knocked the ship, and a big fish came and ate Jonah. And what did that fish do? That fish carried him back to his destiny, what God has for him. Most of us in life, it doesn't matter where in this world we hide. It doesn't matter how fast we run in this world. God will always bring us back to our destiny. Whatever God has for you, whatever God has for me, there's no way in hiding. There's no way. It doesn't matter how fast we run. We will always come back to our destiny. That's why I love that story, Jonah and the whale. So this 2020 that's coming up, we're not hiding from our destiny. We're not going to run from our destiny. We're going to walk right in our destiny. This 2020, we're going to walk right into our destiny.